Hello, everyone. My name is Lynn McEntee, and I'm your host of Spotlight on Youth Matters because you matter. We're here because of Youth for Change Canada, and before we get started, we'd like to do a land acknowledgement. I would like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous people of all the lands that we're on today. While we meet today on a virtual platform, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we call home. And thank you for allowing us to be here. Again, we're here for Spotlight on Youth Matters. My name is Lynn, and I'm here because of Youth for Change Canada. We're here because of Youth for Change. It's a pleasure to put on these programs, and we're very grateful to Youth for Change for allowing us to do that. We've been very, very fortunate to assemble a variety of people from very diverse backgrounds in our conversations for Spotlight on Youth Matters, and we're continuing on with that today as well, too. Some of the programming that we do for Youth for Change is a variety of things, and if you have any ideas, you're welcome to reach out to us on social media, send us an email, but do follow us on social media, our socials, and give us a like and follow our YouTube channel as well. Our mission for Youth for Change is dedicated to improve the quality of life for youth by enriching with learning activities that are sustainable in networking, team building skill sets, character building, mind, body, and balance, and communication skills that foster personal, team, and community strengths via strong mentorship, mentors in various disciplines and careers. We have some amazing guests today that are representing the youth sector we have Michael Hanley, who is here from the University of Waterloo. And I'm just going to read a little bit about Michael, and then we can get started in introducing Aieysha as well, too. So Michael is studying at the University of Waterloo, Nanotechnology, engineering third year, and Opto-Mechanical engineering intern at Vena Medical. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Appreciate that. And we have Aieysha Haws, who's a pop R&B artist, R&B and hip hop soul fusion, singer-songwriter, sonically captivating with unpredictability, wit, and vibrancy. And we're welcoming her today. We're talking about career choices, and they're both coming from different ends of the spectrum. Hi, Aieysha.
Hi, Lynn. Hi, Michael. I'm excited to join you guys today and, just into the discussion of career choices and how that is an aspect of, just youth upbringing and also where in your decision making in terms of career.
Thank you so much, Aieysha. And I'm just going to get you to check your volume a little bit. And I'm going to hop over to Michael for a moment while you're maybe perhaps adjusting the volume. I'm not sure. I just want to make sure we're hearing you 100% so that our viewers and listeners tuning in can hear and hang on every word.
Can you hear me fine now?
Yes, absolutely. You got it.
Just to reiterate, I'm excited to be here and just dive into the conversation of career and, youth decisions in terms of, navigating and learning about career and making those career choices.
Awesome. Thanks for the repeat. Really appreciate that.
Not a problem.
Thank you. So pleasure to be here today. I'm always humbled with the wonderful guests that we have because it's really about learning and growing together in the community, putting unity back in community. We're all about connecting, engaging, and inspiring youth for change. And again, it's just a wonderful journey for me when I get an opportunity to sit in on a conversation with someone like Michael and Aieysha and learning from them as guest experts in their fields. So thank you for both for being here. Michael, I'm going to start out with you, and I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll hop over to Aieysha and we'll go back and forth with the same questions.
Yeah, sounds good. So as was mentioned before, I'm a third year nanotechnology engineering student at the University of Waterloo, currently working as an opto-mechanical engineer at Vena Medical, where I'm working on a new type of catheter to remove blood clots from the brains of stroke victims, and also working on a new microangioscope to give you live time footage of what's going on in your veins and arteries. But not only do I like doing stuff in the medical field, I'm working a bit in sustainability as well as one of the mechanical leads for the University of Waterloo's solar car team. So I'm working on building a solar car from scratch there as well. And then when outside of the engineering field, I still like to keep active, play a lot of sports like soccer, basketball, and volleyball. So yeah, it's a bit about me.
Nice. And if you're comfortable, we'll double back on some of those initiatives that you're working on too, because I'm sure some of our viewers and listeners would enjoy hearing more about that we dissect that a little bit further.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And same question, Aieysha, tell us about yourself and we'll go from there.
About myself, in addition to R&B, hip hop, fusion, as you said, like pop, I'm also a singer-songwriter. So I spend much of my free time just indulging in, doing songwriting and observing. And a lot of that comes from, just taking in my environment and as well as the connections I make with people and community, which it varies. It looks different. And most times, like Michael said, it'll be like with hobbies and different things like that. So if I'm at the park so nothing crazy, just a lot of leisure stuff.
It's interesting. I remember a conversation we had before. You talked about mentorship opportunities and giving back to community. You do some work in that regard as well too, right? I think in everything you do, but you do.
In everything, I'm doing a lot of stuff, but most times I find myself in the background of, community stuff and community building and connecting with people in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think that's important to mention. Those are skills that we learn to cultivate as we go on, but sometimes it takes a lifetime to learn for some. And the fact that you're doing that as a young person already, and
I've always been volunteering. I have a love of volunteering, and I think it's just about it gives you that sense to, like you said, get the community and unity, and as well socialize. I like socializing a lot, and it's a way of meeting new people.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Most recently, I did some volunteering for Winter Song Festival. I don't know if you heard. Yeah, and that was very exciting, and it was a bit of a learning experience because I was in a role that I don't necessarily take on the most, and I got to see a different aspect of music more than just being like at the writer portion and at the singer portion, and actually seeing how they navigate the people on stage. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Any end of production for things like that, right? It's everything from A to Z and all the in between, right? It's like, it's crazy and anything can go wrong.
That was somewhat of a part of my experience, that anything can go wrong. And even though you're in the process of doing something for the first time, you're learning. And when things go wrong, you have to tap in and dig deep and say, okay, I need to dig into some problem solving.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And dig deep for sure.
And I don't want to say too much and hug the camera, but I just want to say, like, sometimes when as artists, it's like people will be very centered in like having the spotlight. And that was another aspect that I looked at. Like I consider myself to be very humble because I'll be like, no, I don't have to be center stage. But some people, they get center stage and they go crazy with the timing and going over and running over. And
And it's interesting you'd say that because I think we can all speak to that in our fields, right? And Michael as well. I think you referenced that the other day when you were speaking a bit.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Thanks, Aieysha, for expanding upon that. Then,
I wanted to know what happened the other day. I was waiting for a story.
Oh yeah, go for it, Michael.
Well, which one? It was I can't remember. I feel like there's a lot of times.
You had a few good ones, yeah.
Yeah. It's like things. One of the ones. I mean, the miscommunication with one of my former bosses, where there was just a bunch of constraints given to me to design something very important for a testing rig for inspection of a certain product, and then in the communication, there was one constraint that was missing, and it was the most important one. And when I presented my project with all the constraints that they said, then I got like berated because it wasn't exactly, or it didn't work based off of the new constraint, which was the most important one. I was like, it was just all on me at that point, instead of taking both accountability there in between the miscommunication. But it is what it is. So yeah.
Yeah. And you know what, rolling with it, I guess the punches, so to speak, right? Sometimes it's like, a whole skill level set altogether for sure,
Mhm.
right? In all of the fields that we do. And when things outside stimulus is coming at us and unpredictable, right? It's learning how
Yeah.
to turn on a dime, I guess, and how do we respond to that? I think some of the speakers the other day were also referencing just always staying focused and positive and
Mhm.
sort of weeding out the negative vibes, I guess, so to speak,
Yeah.
sort of being the leader amongst the bunch, to set the tone of expectations, I guess. And in your case, you had your expectations; they were laid out, but they weren't followed.
Yeah.
But you followed them.
Mhm.
So that that speaks to, like, in all of our career choices that we do, those are skills that we need. The ability for conflict resolution, critical thinking,
Yeah.
right? All of those things, and underscore, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes you have to understand that even though you're in the role of, having that authority and the power, that the people who are identified as the customer or like community, they're right, and you're just in the wrong. You're just there to listen, be the soundboard, and do whatever it is that they need done.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's all of the above. Absolutely. So we're learning about Michael, and we're learning about Aieysha and the work that they do and who they are as young people contributing to society and our communities, and being mentors for other people in the community as well too along the way. Um, so I'll go back to Michael here and then jump over to Aieysha for how young were you when you realized what field you might want to pursue?
Yeah. I think even since like elementary school, I almost kind of knew what I wanted to do because I was always that kind of kid that loved to do things with their hands. And I was like, I really like building stuff. Like Legos were my thing. I loved building Legos all the time, but I also really liked problem solving. And then when I was talking to my parents, looking into it a bit more, I'm like, what is like hands-on plus problem solving? And then that kind of just led me to engineering as a whole. And then as I went through the latter end of elementary school, all through high school, I still observed that those two things were my main motivators, are the things that made me the happiest. So I was like, okay, I'm going in engineering. So yeah, that's how it kind of came to me. I'd say maybe like grade 6 or 7, probably for me.
Oh,
So yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Wow. I find that impressive, because sometimes people do not figure that out, not even at the beginning of high school.
Mhm.
So, shout out to Lego. Um,
Yes.
and your problem solving abilities at that age.
Thank you.
Absolutely, yes. Um, cool. Aisha, do you have any questions for Michael regarding that question?
I mean, he said it was something that he started from when he was like in his childhood, that he knew that he had a vision to just do something that was hands-on. But like, what little small task in between did you find yourself doing? Like, did you partake in terms of like developing and learning, not only towards engineering, but like, what did you do that fed that hobby?
Nice.
Yeah. So actually it's kind of interesting because a lot of the engineering students that I know, when they come into first year, they join all these like robotics clubs or like work in like a machine shop or something like that. And I'm like, I actually never had that experience. I think it was more so the fact that well, one, Legos in the beginning, but it was when I transitioned to like high school, um, I just realized that like sports was a very big part of my life at that time as well. So like being able to do physical things was something that was very important to me since I was just before I got to university, I reached a level just before semi-pro for soccer. So I was like training like 6 times a week, always doing something active. And I realized I still like as I got to like more advanced courses in school, I realized that I really do like problem solving. I do like the STEM sort of aspect, but I didn't want to like just sit in a lab, like writing reports or just doing a test. I wanted to be able to get hands on as well because physical activity is a big part of my life. So I was like, that still translated to me for engineering, I'd say. So yeah.
Nice.
Mhm, mhm. Thank you. Thanks, Aieysha, for posing that as well. And
Can I
then,
propose another question?
yes,
Yeah.
please. Let's go free flow. Let's
I just
go.
want, you said like, you mentioned that a part of, you know, you getting into engineering, there was other students that are like, they had different experiences that led up to that in terms of like just having that hands-on, right?
Yeah.
So for you, what stopped you from having that hands-on? Not that you like, was it a resource thing, or is it that, because I find like sometimes like with myself too, sometimes certain things you had in mind to do, but then resources is like, it's not there, or you
Yeah.
just didn't have the knowledge base to know that, oh, this is something that I can do that, can build on what I have in mind.
Yeah, I think it was a bunch of factors, to be fair. I think the big thing was that one, it was soccer because of the commitment. So it was like, do I have time to actually do more than one thing? But also it was a bit of like, where do I actually go to get this technical knowledge as well? Because there wasn't too many opportunities. There was one club in my high school that was like robotics focused, but when I went there, I didn't like the vibe, and I was really, I only want to do things that I enjoy. So if I didn't like the vibe of the community, I was like, then it's not for me. So that tiered turned me away from that club, and then I just didn't find another one. So yeah, it's kind of what
Hmm.
happened for me.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. And I think we've all been in that situation, right? We've been in a space where it doesn't feel comfortable, and when it's time to move on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it can be the same thing with work opportunities, and in
Mhm.
terms of like keeping that going. You love your job, you love what you do, you love the environment and the people who get familiar with you working there. And then there comes a point where you're like, certain aspects of this job is exhausting me. It's time to call it quits.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have that balance, between mind work and body work as well, too, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
I think it's so key, and they complement each other. The ability to be able to do both has probably helped you evolve as a professional as you move forward, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
that's cool. That's cool.
I like that he was very self-aware though too, because he said like, I didn't like the vibe, so I said I'm gonna leave. Because some people like me, I know I will battle in my head. Like, do I want to leave? I don't like it here, but at the same time, I don't know what to do. But you know what to do. It's about making that decision.
Yeah.
No,
Thank you.
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, because that can be a struggle, right? That yeah, know when to step off. And shut the door, but not entirely.
Yeah.
When you're passionate about something, it's like a relationship. It's like, yeah, I
Mhm.
don't know what to let go, and then after, there's a lot of feelings that come up in between.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
for
that's
sure.
how
Yeah.
I live my life. That's
Absolutely. No, absolutely, for sure. Sometimes you try and just struggle through, but it just doesn't. Yeah, you got to move on and know when it's time to move on, right? I know for even just as a young person myself, I don't think I had that ability, Michael. No, really, I don't think I did,
Yeah.
and I think that's okay to recognize that. And so for you to have that and see that, that's amazing. Because
Thank you.
of course, and again, I know people that are in their later stage of life, they've never learned that skill to know when to say no, or what, here's my meter, and here's my meter stick for treatment,
Yeah.
so don't cross that, and this
Mhm.
is what I have, and this is the core of who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, really cool. And I guess for yourself, I use the same thing. Tell us about you in terms of how young you were when you realized what field you might want to pursue.
um how young was I? Well, I kind of started out as a kid. I always would like dress up and say, "Oh, I like singing," and this is something like I like to do. But I never thought of it as like something career choice. I think like as a little kid, you're not thinking about what am I going to be when I grow up. The anxiety comes later. But to be honest, I think it was something that existed in my imagination. And then as I got older, I said, okay, let me bring this to the forefront, because I would write down, what I want to sing. And I can remember as far as elementary school, like Michael, it started then where, they asked, what's your dream job? And I said, I want to be a singer. And I wrote it down, but I didn't tell anybody what my dream job was. And everyone's like, what did you write down? What did you write down? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe doctor. I don't know. But that in reality, no, I didn't want to be a doctor. And then the yearbook came out and it was in there saying you want to be a singer, and everyone's like side eye.
Yeah. And actually, when you were realizing that as a younger person, then did you find that there was the validity to that, where people validated your dream?
Well, when it comes to arts, I find myself and with friends and other people's experiences, it's always, no matter what you want to do, there's always going to be some people that are trying to invalidate you, or in some way you find the obstacles too along the way. So again, wanting to pursue singing, I can say that a lot of times I did have opportunities that I thought was like something that, would give me the the experience to go out there and see, like, is this something that I like? Because again, like hands-on experience, like Michael mentioned, that's something that you can develop on, and actually, decide that you want to commit to doing that type of work by having the hands-on experience. So again, it's like, yeah, I want to be a singer, but what's more to it? It's more than just, standing there on the stage, or, being out and about and grabbing a microphone, or being in the studio. There's so many different aspects. So again, vocal coach and vocal training, that was like something that I didn't really have access to growing up. So it's like, and that was a resource issue for me. And so sometimes you had the opportunity, and then again, like with school, that was a way to like get vocal training for free. But again, they canceled those programs, as I discussed previously a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, accessibility, available resources is so important. And, when we talk about the arts, there's a lot of always funding cuts and such, but, and it's unfortunate because that requires so many skills that we need in our daily lives and our professions, many professions, really. You can think about that crossover of skill level, whether you want to be a singer or not, the ability to be able to learn those skills, and then they're transferable skills to other professions, right?
Exactly. And people don't pursue what they're not good at. That's the reality of, and you'll have other people telling you that you're not good, but how do you know that you're not good if you don't have a chance to develop on that, right? And if you don't know, then how will you ever know if you even have the capability? So, it's about quality and quantity, in terms of that decision. Because you can say, okay, quantity, I can go here and do this and work as many jobs doing the same thing in the same role. But then quality wise, what did you learn from each of those jobs?
Yeah, no, for sure. Before I jump over to Michael for maybe just asking you a question or two, you were born in Florida, but you've been here all your life?
I've been here all my life.
Yeah. So yeah, were you 5 when you came? Was it
When I was 5, yeah, probably 5, around 5 or 6, yeah.
6? Yeah, I know my family immigrated, from Scotland, and I've been here most of my life. But for me, we were always sort of immigrant family thought, I guess, so to speak, and just fitting into the community and things like that, and were very important, to assimilate with the community, but also celebrate being from Scotland was cool at the time, but just about expectations of what to pursue.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yeah, that was one of my experiences. I've never been deterred by my parents not to do certain things, but again, like education is very much up there in terms of completing. So I can say, like, when I was in high school, my dad, he mentioned that I said, "Oh, I'm doing very well in school." This was a conversation we had. I said, "I'm doing very well in school, but at the same time, I think that music is something that I would have fun with doing." And I mentioned some other family members that do music as well, because I have a lot of family members that they don't necessarily do music as something full time, because again, like, life gets busy, and you have other demands, and sometimes that's where you have to draw and focus on doing other things. So I'm like, I love what they do, but I also love doing it for myself. And I think the same passion that's in the family has also been something that I want for myself and that I want to pursue. And he's like, yeah, that's great. So focus on school and continue with that, and then you can revisit that. And I was just like, okay, so you're not hearing what I'm saying, you know?
So yeah, speaking of voice, finding your voice
Exactly. Yeah.
to advocate for yourself, right? Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Michael, do you have any questions for Aieysha just about what she was speaking about previously? Yeah.
Yeah, I was in terms of like the journey, I was wondering like where did you get like because I know a lot of like aspiring singers like have like sometimes find a struggle to like find a place to perform. Like, did you have that experience where it's like you were able to do like shows or like you performed a lot in your schools and whatnot? I'm just curious about that.
So funny story. So again, with starting singing, it started at elementary school, and I can remember a time it was like Black History Month, and they said, "Oh, we needed something to fill space," and I'm just like, I can sing, but I don't really want to sing, and I was kind of running away from it. So again, like in my present life, again, it's like finding that balance. So there was a time where I'm like, I'm not gonna do music. I'm gonna go to school full time, and I'm gonna get my degree, and I'm gonna do A, B, C, and D. And at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but I really love music. And inside, you're like, I really love music, but at the same time, I got to do this. So it was kind of like Black History Month. So bringing it back, it was like Black History Month. I didn't want to sing. I was kind of running away from it. And then they they being like the staff, they said, we know you can sing, you're gonna sing at our assembly. And I sang at the assembly and everybody loved it. But I loved it too. And I didn't love it just for like the big experience of being up there and people staring at me. Because in reality, I don't really like attention, which is crazy. I have a thing where I don't like attention, but I like to give. And I feel like when I'm singing, it's my way of giving. And I like to just look in the crowd and see that people are actually receiving it and they're happy and it does something for them. So that was like one of my experiences. And in terms of like finding gigs and things to do that are actually paid, for a long time I was never paid, which is a common thing. And I think with different aspects of when you're in the learning stages, sometimes people do take advantage and they're like, exposure, or or you're gonna learn if you go here and you do an internship here, just as an example. But oftentimes it's like people will try to pay you an exposure, and it's like, we don't want exposure. We actually have a life to live, and we also have bills to pay, and if we're giving our time, please be fair and be kind. And that's not always the case. But often, in terms of finding gigs, it was either for me like something school related, community related, or actually going out there and people would see what I do, whenever I had the opportunity to, and they'd say, "Hey, we know that we can do A, B, C, and D." But I think for a lot of musicians, depending on whatever you create or what direction you're going or what you want to do, you have to always think about alignment and how that represents you and what you're trying to put out in the community. So
Nice.
again, it can be difficult. That's what I'll leave it at that.
Yeah,
If that answers your question.
it does. Thank
Yes.
you.
And we'll underscore alignment. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, thank you. Amazing. Great conversation. So we're here for Youth for Change Canada. We're talking about career choices. We have Michael and Aieysha here talking about their experiences in life and what they're contributing to in their professions and in our communities as well. And it's a great living room conversation, if you will. So thank you for
In my living room.
yeah, nice. Even better. Thank you. So one of the other questions I wrote down was what skill building is necessary for your field? Do you want to take that one, Michael? And then we'll go to Aieysha, give her a moment to take a break.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that because I feel like there's quite a stark difference between doing well academically and doing well in like actual working experience. Because I've found that a lot of people, like when we're in school, if you're very good at memorizing things, pattern recognition, like especially in engineering, when we get in those like heavy math, heavy physics type things, understanding or like recognizing those patterns is something that makes life a lot easier. But I think when a stark difference when you go to industry is the fact that there's a lot more critical thinking and a lot more like creativity needed to solve things. Because a lot of the times like textbooks will give you like this standard cookie cutter way of doing things and asking things. But when it gets to the real world, that's not always the case. And there's things that you need to like think way out of the box to get an answer for. And a lot of the things that are um, supposed to work in theory do not work in practice. So coming up with solutions for that type of problem is always something that will be needed. Like good problem solving, but being creative while problem solving is one of the things that's 100% necessary in engineering. And that's not just then that doesn't come from like if you have a 99 or if you have a 65, like that's just a skill that has to be developed on your own through just being able to like take on your own projects, solving your own stuff, like kind of stuff like that. But regardless, and I think this goes for like any industry, like the perseverance that is required to just keep going when things don't go right, that's always going to be required. So yeah.
So problem solving for sure.
Mhm.
Any other, like you mentioned, critical thinking,
Mhm.
and we'll go back to the soccer for a moment. So problem solving right there,
Yeah.
at the skill level you're at for sure, for soccer even for that matter, the crossover of skills for you when working in the field of engineering has been probably very helpful, I would imagine.
Yeah, 100%. I should have
Yeah.
elaborated on actually teamwork is a big thing as well, because a lot of the times it's going to be a huge multidisciplinary project where you're going to be working with a huge team and you're going to need to have good communication skills. And it's the same on the soccer field. I'm working with 10 people to advance the ball of the field. So it's like you kind of got to work together really well and like know each other's strengths and weaknesses and play off of that because when the team knows each other better and knows who can help with what, then it just makes a very nice, well-oiled machine, and you guys can, it makes an unstoppable thing. So yeah.
Oh, oh, that's a good one. Nice. Oh,
Nice way of wrapping it up. Yeah.
right. Oh, for sure. Question then, Aieysha, for Michael for some of the things
You
that.
know what? I was gonna say, like, Michael has a brilliant mind, and how I can tell is because he didn't go right to saying like critical thinking, but he said creative. You have to look at things from a creative standpoint. And I get what he means because I can think like if I was in the role of an engineer, that sometimes you have an issue and it's like you have the textbook is telling you how to fix it, but then looking at the issue head on, there could be something that's not necessarily in the textbook. So you have to think not only critically, saying, okay, I know A and B go together to create C, but knowing that there's something else behind that to search for. And that's where you have to get creative and say, we've never seen this problem before. So now in order to make something new, we have to think ahead. I don't know. That's
Mhm.
that's okay to mind
That's
when you say that.
perfectly,
Yeah.
you summarized it perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
so in terms of like staying organized, how does that work in the daily life of doing what you do?
Yeah, organization is like a huge thing that's needed because I do a lot of things. So if I'm not organized, then I just won't be able to keep up. Um, and the thing is with like organization and like proper documentation keeping, is one of those things that's really important. Like within the workplace, I found it's like if somebody needs to take on exactly what I've done, I need to write write what I've done properly, step by step, be thorough with what I've said, and keep it in a good and organized place. But not only that, in like school too, because I'm somebody that likes to help out the younger years as well. So if I keep my notes organized or keep my old stuff properly kept, then I can help out the younger years as well. And they usually appreciate it. So organization is always a big part of engineering, and I think definitely all industries alike. So yeah.
And a skill that we don't always learn right away. So you've learned it
Yeah.
already because you've had to for survival.
Mhm.
Amazing. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. What about yourself, Aieysha? What skill building is necessary in your field? We mentioned a few crossovers, but you go for it.
I think it all intersects, and it's all very much the same. Again, like as a musician, you have to, again, we play the role not only like working independently. We don't play the role of just making the music, but behind all of that, we're administrators, we're office people, we're writing, and in order to like even get opportunities, as was asked before, we always have to make sure that we're communicating in a way that's effective. Otherwise, you don't necessarily get past the step of, hey, I sent that email. You may get send the email and not get anything back. So
Yeah.
that's, communication is key, and as well as staying organized, because again, if like, for example, today showing up, had I not shown up, that may be also something that, shows on me that I may not even get called back again to do anything. And granted that, if it's a paid opportunity, then that's money that you've missed. And then it all adds up. So communication, staying organized. But I also had to say, from emotional perspective, you have to be very persistent. Yeah, because with certain things it's hit or miss, and also creativity is one too. You have to always be innovative and think of different and new ways to just be in your authentic self, but as well, be current and be in the time of what people want to hear, and what you're creating, and yeah, what you feel.
So not being rigid, I guess, right? As well, and being fluid, so that you can change if necessary into the moment. Well, that's cool. Thank you, Aieysha.
Yeah, so we're constantly networking and having to, meet different people and socialize. And again, like, you may meet rigid personalities and you're like, this is not me, but it's a reflective of somebody you have to meet to get from A to Z, what I mean? So sometimes you're like, okay, well, this person, I don't know them, but I want to introduce myself not as somebody that's fighting against their personality, but this is me and you are you, but there needs to be some respect. And again, I find like within music, sometimes people are not going to necessarily accept you just showing up and being talented as is, but you have to prove yourself, and respect is earned, it's not given.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Michael, question for Aieysha.
I think one of those, what's it called? Because really liked what you said about like persistence, because yeah, it could be tough getting shot down like a lot of these times when it's like that in your heart that you're good enough to do this stuff. But it's like when will somebody else realize that too? So it's like I'm wondering, it's like, do you want to elaborate a bit on like some of the things that you've done to help build that persistence per se?
I would say like my whole life has been a battle of persistence, whether that is within music or outside of music. Like, I can say from a certain perspective, in school wise, I was always writing. So like, I would say like from kindergarten, around grade one-ish. I'll say around grade one-ish because I don't remember the exact time frame, but I'm gonna say I was young. So I used to write like little kids' books, but I never did anything with it. I would just write them, and teachers would say, "Oh, you should actually do something with this." And as the years gone by, people kept telling me, "You're a very good writer. You should continue writing." But then there were times where I heard that you're not good at writing, you're not doing what you need to do. And that was from a different perspective of like, it would be teachers saying like grammatically things are not there. So again, like if we were to touch on mentors, I could say there was a teacher, Miss Goodyear. And one day she came up to me. There was a teacher that we had, and it was like, I guess it was like a close friend of hers. Like, teachers have their bond, like they have their favorite teacher friend or whatever. So that teacher would always say, "Oh, she writes, but it's like grammatically, and I know it's like something's always happening." And I still work on grammar to this day. But yeah, she came up to me one day because I would always overhear what they say, and she told me that I was a good writer one time, and I said, "You know what? But grammatically, I need to work on it." So again, sometimes you can internalize the feedback. And she said, "You know what? Grammatically or not, the best writers, they're not good with their grammar." But they know how to tell a story and paint it in a way that it resonates with everybody. So again, that was a part of my persistence in terms of like, you have to find your confidence. And sometimes the confidence comes from somebody else. And another time it comes from you having to dig deep and know who you are and stand your ground. Because sometimes I'm performing places where the whole room is just staring straight, not saying anything. And you can do everything. You could do a backflip, you can dance or whatever, and they'd still be in the same vibe. But again, as a musician, your job is to come in and change the whole vibe of the room.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if
Nice.
if
No,
that
that answers the question. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, totally. That's really cool. Now I'm thinking of that room. Wow, that's a tense room. And I think we've all been in that situation, but as a performer, how important is that, right? You still have to give of yourself, and change that vibe, as you had said, right? But it's interesting because we all look to be authenticated by someone else, but I think it's important it starts with ourselves first, right?
Yes.
It's being our authentic selves and validating that it's the uniqueness of ourselves is so important. And that's what we need to celebrate moving forward in any work that we do. A young person, starting out their career, trying to find themselves, honor those things about you. Yes, you can get feedback and other outside stimuli, but and the bottom line is that you're the one at the end of the day who's listening to yourself. You're going to sleep at night listening to yourself.
Exactly. And sometimes you can be your own enemy by just listening to your own inner thoughts, because you can look at that crowd and say, oh my gosh, they didn't like me because no one reacted or their face was straight. And then, afterwards, people are, you'll get a little letter. Because I've had places where I've gone and the room was very tense and nobody said anything. And I've gone home and I've got little messages of people saying, I really love the performance that you did the other night. And I thought A and B and C, it was good. And I'm like, I'm good because I went home and I'm like, I had fun. That's all that matters to me. So I'm like, at the end of the day, you need to go up and say, I'm doing this because I'm passionate about it and I'm having fun. So like, even when you're in your regular job and somebody's yelling at you, you're like, you know what? I'm having fun. There's something about this job that I love. And there was a reason why I started in the first place. And the reason that I started will be the same reason that I end, and I'll end on a good note. That's how I put it.
Nice. No, for sure. That's awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. That's cool. All right, what have we got here? We have what have been some of the challenges, kind of what we've been talking about, but I wonder if we can expand on that. I'm going to go back to Michael for the engineering field, and maybe if you can also speak to some of the work that you currently mentioned when we first started out as well too. But in this case, what have been some of the challenges along the way, and how have you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the biggest things is imposter syndrome with engineering, because especially at Waterloo, you're in a space with extremely smart people, and I am somebody that is not like, I'm not at the top of the class, like not anywhere close. So it's like when I see all these other people doing really well, and then like, why am I struggling? It's like that sometimes gets to you. So I think one of the things was, it's just really that working on myself and understanding who I am. It's like, I know that I am here for a reason. The university wouldn't have allowed me to come if I wasn't here for a reason. So just getting out of that headspace of comparing myself to others and just looking at me is one of the things that helped me just thrive better within the university. And then that also just translates in like understanding like who I am. But when we get to like just problem solving in general, because sometimes it's just very frustrating when you can't get something right. And just understanding, like having that perseverance and that persistence to just keep going at it and saying that I will get it eventually as long as I don't give up. I think that's one of the things that is really important. I can give like an example would be, at my current workplace now, when I was, what's it called? The one that I was talking about on Saturday, when I was trying to recreate a new way to repair brain aneurysm. And they were basically, I was told to recreate the scenario of like I need to induce hypothermia in a certain part of the brain to repair an aneurysm. And they're like, let's do this and let's collect certain data points to see if this is viable to try out in animal studies. And there is no textbook on how to do that. So I had to really think outside the box, and I was struggling a lot in terms of figuring out the setup, trying to work out the surgery, trying to figure it out, and then actually operating the machines that the surgeons do at the same time. But over the course of many weeks, I just got better and better and better at it. And then I was able to actually solve the problem after a month and a bit. Although it took a while, I did end up solving it. I just couldn't give up. That was the whole thing. If I gave up after a week, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So yeah, yeah, that was pretty cool.
So perseverance then. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a certain type of person to get jobs done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have stepped outside the box. It's very liberating.
Yes, yes,
in
it
many
was.
ways, right? When you
Yeah.
do that. Do you mind just speaking a little bit about that? Like, what is that like working on a project like that?
Yeah.
Betterment
I
of society,
yeah.
Like,
I
well,
think this is probably one of the most rewarding co-ops I've had by far, because I'm having a direct impact on a lot of people's lives. Just because like this is like new technology that hasn't been like fully released into, or hasn't been fully adopted by the medical field. But as I've been working on it, and because it's a small startup, they treat me like a real engineer, and I do like really important work that really drives the progress of the company forward. And I think just in the back of my head, like knowing that this can affect like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives going forward in the future, I think that's something that like motivates me to just continue to not give up, because if I give up, then it's only going to take that much longer for this tech to get onto the market and help out these people. So yeah, I think that's one of the biggest motivating things for me. And I think it's been, yeah, one of the better experiences I've had. So yeah.
cool. Yeah, thank you. Aieysha, did you want to jump in with anything? With
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you take some inspiration from in terms of finding you're persistent from like watching like anime or something of the sort, or no?
I think
It's a random question.
Yeah, it sure
no,
is.
it's a good one. I
Yeah.
think it's been my
one.
parents 100%. They've gone through a lot. They've done a lot to put me into the position that I am today, and just through sheer perseverance alone. And I definitely watched that growing up, and I took that to heart, and I really I really wanted to be like them. So adopting their good character traits was one of the goals. Um, so I did everything that I could to be as strong as them. So that's where I kind of got it from. So I was like in my back of my head when I'm doing stuff, it's like I know my parents wouldn't give up at this point. They'd keep trying. So yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, no, that is beautiful actually. And just hearing you say it out loud is like, wow, your parents must be so proud of you. Uh,
Yes,
you know,
they've said it, thankfully.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And same with Aieysha, like when you were speaking to, like, you're talking to a crowd that's not giving anything to you, but you are giving to them. And that is so hard. And but it takes a certain type of person to stand there and do that and give of yourself freely when you're not getting anything in return, I guess, so to speak, from the crowd. So I thought of you in that way when Michael was speaking, just and giving up yourself through challenging times, right? I'll just jump over to you then with the same question, please and thank you. So what do we want to cover? What have been some of the challenges along the way, and how did you overcome? Which is, I think you kind of crossed on it a little bit. But
Yeah, I mentioned resources is one thing, but also opinions. We fight against opinions, whether that's from, outside sources or that of our own, our internal thoughts. you know. And again, I think no one ever backs down from having those thoughts where you're like, you know what, maybe I'm not good enough, or I'm not doing enough, or I need to do more. I can say for myself, sometimes I'm like, maybe I need to do more. Why am I not going harder? Why am I not over here? Why am I not over there? Like me, I will try to, this is my bad, what do you call it, my weakness, my, I'll say my weakness. You know, when you get a job and they're like, what's your strength, what's your weakness, I'll say that my weakness is that I try to be everywhere and anywhere doing everything. And you know, sometimes again, you know, you need to step back and say, okay, I need support, or I need to step out of this situation because this is not for me and I'm biting off more than I can chew. And two, you know, if I can speak from like reality, I would say as an artist, people had told me that like people wouldn't be taking notice of my work or like things that I'm doing, not because I'm not talented, but it's because I'm new, I'm merging, and nobody knows who I am. So, you know, there's certain things that I need to do if I want to get any type of attention. So one thing was, people said that like, you have no music video. Like in reality, I have no music video. If you Google me, there's no music video that exists with me. I probably have one in the archives, maybe, but like there's none out there. And they said like, you know, no one paid attention to your stuff. Nobody would write about it. And I said, you know what, I'm going to prove a point. So something that I did intentionally to prove a point is that I didn't put out any music for like 2 years. And I had one particular song that when I was told that I wrote the song, put it out. And I said, okay, this song, I'm going to prove my point with this song. And it proved my point. You know, a lot of people took notice. You know, CBC was somebody that looked at it. BBC looked at it. So again, I say like, I do have a potential to grow in what I'm doing. And had I said, okay, this person told me A, B, and C, then I'm going to give up and not do it. And two, I find myself sometimes that I'll be in the background and I'm writing to people and I'm like, hey, I have this song. You guys check it out, take a look at it, you know? And there's other people that support me too, that, you know, push me. And sometimes, you know, you won't get any support, but it's again, like Lynn mentioned, not looking at the validation that's external, but actually saying, hey, you know, I'm making something that's quality. And so that matters to me because I'm passionate about it.
Yeah. Yeah, big time. Michael, did you want to ask a question or a comment at all for Aieysha?
No, I think I'm good.
You could?
Okay,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you very much. Thank you.
And just to elaborate, like from the perspective of like being a Black woman and doing music, sometimes it's like another obstacle can be is that people say, well, what you're making, again, like I'm mixing all different genres together. So it's something new, different, innovative. That's how I would describe it for myself in the positive. But in the negative, some people will say, well, you know, it's very much, you know, Black people music. I'm gonna be honest, they say Black people music. I've heard that from professionals say it's Black people music. And I'm just like, well, you
Yeah.
know, and or they say like there's no spear for this because it's R&B and it's hip hop, and R&B and hip hop doesn't have that many outlets. So again, like, you know, part of why I do what I do, and you know, if I see that there's a lack of something, then somebody else needs to fill that void. So there are people doing the same thing, trying to work towards filling the gap. But also, I want to be someone that can create spaces when I have, you know, the resources of my own to create that for other people, to take them to the next level and say, you know what, you're not being unseen, you're not being unheard, but there's a place for you, and there, and you have a voice. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much. That's awesome. We have a little bit more time for a few more questions. I know you both have very busy schedules, and I do appreciate you being here today and being a part of the conversation, but creating the conversation. So thank you for allowing it to morph in different ways as we go here. Appreciate it. Then I'm going to then just jump over to, can you share any light bulb moments on your journey, Michael, and working in the engineering field? And yeah, you can
Yeah,
elaborate.
I think one of the big things was it was in school. Because in first year I was having quite a hard time with just doing anything per se. I was constantly stressed about doing the work and trying to balance like extracurriculars, because I think I was trying to aim for a standard that might have been somewhat unachievable for what I was looking for. And I think one of the things that really helped me was one of my mentors, where he told me and like kind of sat me down and tried to like do an actual assessment of what I'm actually trying to do with my degree, actually, in a sense where it's like, do you want to like continue over to grad studies and all this type of stuff, or do you want to actually go hands-on like right after and try and make a difference? And then once we assessed, like I realized that I just want to go to industry right after and actually get that hands-on experience. Then he's like, okay, then we can shift our priorities in this way. Because I think one of the things that engineering students like fall a trap to when transitioning from high school to university is the fact that in their high schools, usually engineering students would be like in the top 10 of their class, like having like 97 averages all the time. But when you come to university, it's quite a shock when can't do that, and trying to strive for like 95 97 in engineering program is insane. And I found that the hard way, which created an unnecessary amount of stress. But when I was able to step back and realize that I don't need to attain that, I can go like be at a 75 and still be okay, because at the end of the day the paper is the same. There's not any special difference. So the paper is the same, but the experience and the memories that you get out of the program are something that is invaluable, or that's priceless there. So that really helped me out. And because he was also, he graduated now, but he also showed that he ended up having to repeat two of his engineering terms, but he's still he is full-time at Apple right after graduation. So like that just showed me, I'm like, okay, like you can have a couple slip ups in academia and still be fine. So that just made life a lot easier. I'm a lot more easygoing now with school, and it's just made life a lot easier. So that was kind of like my light bulb moment. It's just like, just be more in the moment, be more present, get experiences, get memories, and don't just stare at a textbook all day. So yeah.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Michael. Thank you very much for highlighting that. Because people question that, right? It's so you've just kind of hit the nail right on the head there. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
No
Aieysha, question
worries.
for Michael for the light bulb moment or comment? What he was
So it seems like in the moment that you described the light bulb moment, you kind of like fed off I guess it's your mentor that you mentioned. It's a
Yeah.
mentor. So you kind of fed off like their experience and you said, okay, they're an example of somebody who's pursuing the same thing that I'm doing, and they're having success even though they're not the greatest. So do you have something like that's specific to you, more in the sense that like if your mentor wasn't there, or like your mentor was like going down a whole different type of path, like your mentor just woke up one day and said, I'm not going to do engineering anymore, like what would you do? Like how would you dig deep to what would be your light bulb, in the sense of like you can dig deep further in yourself and say, I have this, and I may not have the example, but there's something out there? Or does it go back to your parents?
Yeah, I think, well, for sure, definitely my parents, but I think in this scenario, I think one of the things that would have got me through is that well, actually, the thing was, it's like, yes, I saw my mentor be able to do it, but it was still on me to actually stop comparing myself to the top of the class. So that like light bulb moment was like just going into my like looking within myself and seeing and realizing that I'm worth it regardless, in a sense where a number on a paper doesn't define like what I can do, and it doesn't define what I can achieve. And I think realizing that moment for me was like realizing or showing that um or it basically like took like a weight off my shoulders. It like kind of like broke this like limiter, I would say, and was like, okay, I can do it as long as I'm passionate enough to learn it. I don't need some professor. I don't need a test to say that I'm good or not. I can do it regardless. So yeah, I think also just like getting validation from doing for getting good experience is also a good thing as well, because like there's a lot of people that might be able to get like high academic averages, but they might not have cool hands-on experience.
Yeah.
And I think, and it goes back to the whole reason why I joined engineering was because I liked working hands-on. I liked getting that experience. So that also helped me realize, or there's also a light bulb moment. It's like the core reason of what I was doing or going into engineering was hands-on. So if I like what I'm doing hands-on, then it doesn't matter how good I do in academia as long as I can continue to do the cool hands-on stuff. So yeah,
So passion's the driving force, pretty much.
passion 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So another question, if you don't mind, that I want to throw in there is like,
Mhm.
what are you most proud of in terms of like your accomplishments since getting into engineering? Like, what is something that you can say, like, this is up there, and I know that this is something that, I can go on for years and say, hey, do you know I did this? And just like, you get bragging rights, and
Yeah,
it's okay to be proud.
for sure. I think it'd have to be like being one of the mechanical leads on my solar car team, because it's I'm in a really unique position because I'm in nanotechnology engineering and I don't learn any mechanical engineering principles in my classes, yet I taught myself enough and was passionate enough to go to the extent where I learned enough about mechanical engineering and solar cars to be able to lead an entire team of mechanical engineering and mechatronics engineering students to work towards that goal. And I think that just proved to me that the whole passion thing was a is a big thing because my other leads like in the team who are in mechanical engineering and mechatronics engineering have told me that I have done cooler or know more about mechanical engineering than some of their classmates, even though they study that in class. So that like kind of gave me that like aha moment, which kind of like goes back to like the whole like academia doesn't mean as much. It's that hands-on stuff. But that was one of my biggest moments, or biggest things that I'll remember for a while, because in about a year we'll have it built. So then we're gonna race it across America for 3,000 kilometers. So that'll be a lifetime experience for me. So yeah.
So we knew him when. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Like
Yes.
Einstein.
Yes.
No, definitely not.
You say
Uh,
that. I mean, I couldn't do it, so all the kudos to you.
Thank you.
That's cool. That's very cool. Thank you. So then I was just I'm going to go on to Aieysha here, and then maybe we'll just wrap up with a final question, and then we'll go from there. I know your time is precious as well. So what do we have? A light bulb moment for you, Aieysha, along the way?
Yeah, I think for light bulb moment for me, I think it starts in reverse, because again, I talk about school a lot, but I don't get like too deep in it because like for me it's like a fresh wound, but it's like
Yeah.
after high school, I went into university and I was doing some law, and I loved law, but again, like, um the pessimistic voice that kind of got towards me, and it's like, certain feedbacks. And again, like I'm very I would say sensitive to critical this critique in general, like, so often to be like, oh, your writing's this, or sometimes like I find like with university there's not really any feedback. Again, like, I can relate sort of to like Michael's experience. It's like sometimes as a student you're getting a lot of like soundboarding where it's like, and robotic feedback where the professor just marks you and they're like, okay, we have the percentile, you landed in this percentile, but the feedback's never really there. And I like to get more feedback, like what did I do, how can I improve? But because it's such a fast-paced environment, you don't necessarily get all that you need. So then as a student you have to dig deep and look within yourself. So again, like I went from studying law to doing music. And again, it was sort of like me running away because again, like my parents, they said, get your education, and education is good. I graduated high school. I have that. I also have some of my college and I have some university, but it's like I didn't finish. But at the same time, it's like I think I'm a very brilliant person in my own without having a paper that says it. And I did a lot of great things that I wanted to do without having that. But again, it's like I knew that I was studying something and my heart wasn't in it. That's definitely, that was a light bulb for me. I was studying something that my heart wasn't in. And I was doing it for the right reason, because I said I want to help people, and I'm a good communicator, especially when it comes to the way that I articulate myself, and of course like assessing and observing the environment. But at the same time, I'm like, there's something else that I want to do, and I feel that this is what I'm called to do, which is music. And I can always get back to going to school afterwards. But again, like I have a vision and a direction that I want to do. So that's my light bulb for me, and the many successes that I have musically that I'm doing as somebody who's just doing it for the first time, as a professional. I find that I'm succeeding in a way that's, it's validating to me. Not only that I get recognition from my peers or recognition from like the public, but at the same time, there are people, again, like the individuals that come up to you and they say, you touched me with what you did. And that has always been something that, like, I would sing and people said, like, you moved me on an emotional level. And I think our society is so focused on, being blue collar and doing everything and getting everything complete in a certain way, but sometimes we take away from the emotional aspect, because everybody that's in every job, to some degree, they have feelings towards what they do. There's a reason why they're doing it. So again, like, the person at the grocery store, they are probably very passionate about doing groceries, and you would never know. Some people or like they hate it, and you would never know. But again, it goes back to that level of respect as a human being. So again, it's like, let's be genuine, let's respect each other. Um, let's also communicate in a way that, is clear, and that we emphasize with other people as well.
Mhm.
So that's the light bulb for me. I find a way to introspect in doing music.
Yeah.
That's the light bulb.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for that, for sharing that journey. Michael, did you want to jump in with anything?
Yeah. So what was your proudest moment? Would you say, what was your big
What's
aha?
my
Like, I
proudest
made it.
moment? Oh my God, I don't like to brag. um, there are so many things. I would say, like, most recently, because for myself, again, sometimes I struggle as much as I like to talk about emotions, and I can sort of be like the advisor to other people and be like the psychology friend. Sometimes I struggle with my own vulnerability and just being transparent in that way. Not in the sense that, like, I can't show emotion, but it's like, I don't always get too deep in my feelings in terms of like expressing to others how I feel. And I find that I can do that in music. But most recently, I had a show where it was like in front of a larger audience, and I got emotional on stage, and I spoke about something that, kind of combined my past and my present. And it was a moving experience for me. That's what I say. So that's something that I say I can brag about that, because a lot of people respected me for, being authentic in the raw emotion that I felt. And in that way, I showed up as myself, opposed to hiding. Because again, like, I have this thing where like, even though I do stuff in public, I don't really like the attention or getting seen too much. It's weird, but it's my thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what, Aisha, I don't think it's weird at all. I think it's your thing. And I think, and a lot of people actually have that. Surprising. Many performers actually have that almost shyness about it, about them. Right?
I don't like the word shy when people say, "Oh, you're shy," because
Yeah.
again, like, I can have a conversation with
Yeah.
anybody, but at the same time, no, I'm not saying that you had the wrong choice of words, but
Oh,
at the
no,
same
that's good. I laugh somewhat because I've also been in the education field as well. So for me, my focus was always seeing everyone in the room. And I think that's so important for young people as they're going through their journey, that they know that they're being seen, whatever package they bring to the table, whether it be, I know I was shy growing up, I'll mention shy, but it took me time to figure out that, and it's okay to be my authentic self and share that with
yeah.
the rest of the world, right?
Well,
So
it's okay to shine. Basically, it's okay
yeah.
to just shine and be seen. Yeah,
Shine and be seen, and do
yeah,
you, because nobody else can do it better, right? And
exactly.
right,
Just like Michael said, he was able to have his big accomplishment of leading his team, and again, he's doing stuff that other people that are, in higher grades or higher placements. I don't know how they do the grading or but yeah, that people in different statures don't even have that experience, but he's had the ability to do that. So
Yeah.
it's all about just, being true to yourself, but also having the willingness to explore. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do we have time for one more question? I want to make sure, I know that some of you had to scoot off, but
Yeah, we can go one more question.
Yeah.
yeah, Michael, you're still okay with that?
Yep.
And
One
you
more.
also said that? Okay, thank you. Let's go for that. Then I think you've kind of covered it, but how important is mentorship to you? And if you're speaking to any young person out there who's doubting themselves, and trying to, pursue a mentor.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think mentorship is something that's very close to me, because a lot of the times, like, you kind of just need that like little, what's it called, that helping hand, and mentors can really give that to you, especially it's like when you're trying to look for inspiration, to pursue something that you're really passionate in. You then find that mentor, that role model that you want, and then they inspire you to work, towards your passion. And when it's even better when you can actually connect with that mentor and then they actually help you on your journey there. I think that's one of the most not rewarding but special things, that you can get, because I know I've received a lot of great mentorship and they've helped me along my way, and I feel like I need to do the exact same for those that are younger than me. I feel like it's a give, and it's also a give and take kind of thing. You need to, as much as you receive it, you got to give it right back to somebody else. So that's kind of like my stance on that. So yeah.
Yeah, perfect. No, that's great. And that there's no age limit on mentorship, right?
Yeah.
A person in
100%.
primary school who's mentoring someone else, mentoring an adult for whatever reason that may be, right? So that the adult is finding themselves, right? What about you, Aieysha? Same thing before we wrap up.
Yeah, I think that was a good example that you're leading up to, where you said like there's no age limit on there, because again, like I could say when I was in high school, um oftentimes I had a teacher that would say, you're very reflective on the way that you interpret your own emotions, and emotional intelligence is very rare in terms of adults. Most adults don't even understand themselves or how to interact or communicate with other people, because again, they don't have that thing where they know to self-reflect and be self-aware, but again, have a certain level of emotional intelligence to look at things from a different perspective. And again, when you said like age doesn't matter, I'm thinking of like, sometimes as kids, we had two different kids in the room. And I think as a teacher, you probably observed that, like, you'll have another student that's trying to teach another student. You're like, you need to get your work done, not be over there trying to tell this one how to get it done. And, because that's your job. You're like, I can do my job. You need to make sure that you're learning. I don't know if that came to mind, but at the same time, for myself, in terms of mentorships, I would say that, with mentorships, we have to look at the people that came before us, and we have to look at the people that are going to be behind us, following in our footsteps. And I was having a conversation last night, and I said, sometimes you look at what you're doing and you're like, I'm not doing enough. But again, like, think of a snowy day, and like there's these large banks, and you're like, the other person behind you is like, I need to go over there, and you're like, I need to get over there too. But at the same time, this analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, you're like, okay, well, I need to get over there. There's no pathway. So you're like, I'm going to step in the pathway. So you step, you make a path. And the other person behind you is like, oh, I need to get over there too. But I don't want to go that way. But you know what? Since that way was safe for them and they didn't sink and they got snow in their boots, I'm going to go over there and I won't get snow in my boots because I can walk in their steps. So that person's going to come behind you, walk in your steps. And they don't get the snow in their boots, but you got the snow in your boots. But does it matter to you? Because you've already gone to do what you needed to do. And you're like, the next person, they can go right ahead and walk in my footsteps. That's helpful for them. That's how I interpret what Michael basically said, where it's like, you need to help the younger generation. That's like that's an analogy for me. And then, for myself, all the time, I kind of look at it as like reflection. I think like everybody is a reflection, whether it's a positive or a negative. In a way, you can take away something from just meeting somebody. So, for example, you can meet somebody that's negative and you're like, you know what? I didn't like what they did, but in some ways, that negativity is like represented in me in some way. in the sense that, you know, it triggered something that I was able to see, like, I'm not used to that, or that's not something I want. So in a way that helps you develop in your mind that, you know, you don't want to be like that, or you don't want to interpret that. So again, like, people have positive and negative role models. And like Michael said, that, you know, a part of being a mentor is that, you know, you can always go back and, you know, not only do you look up to what they do, but you can reflect on what it is that they can do for you in the long run, in terms of having to that open forum for communication, and just, you know, talking about the different aspects of your career, how far you want to go in it, and, you know, where you're at, and how you can make improvements and things like that. So yeah, having a mentor is very important, and it's also important to have a certain self-awareness. And even know that, again, like, if you don't have a mentor as a resource, there's a different type of resource, which you could be your own mentor by looking within and going within, and building from there. But again, too, we have things throughout the community too, like community programs and events and things like that, that people allow us to learn. So again, like, with Winter Song, that was something that allowed me to, like, take on a different role. It's like a co-op kind of thing, but it's volunteering, right? But it gave me that hands-on experience to say, oh, I was learning this. And, you know, whether I liked how the event was ran or not, um, it just gives you that opportunity to say, you know, I would do it this way, or I wouldn't do it this way. You know, there's always something to take away, and you always have feedback. Even so, even when you have your own mentors, it's always good to say, you know, we have that communication, and we can talk about whether we like this or we didn't like this. And I think it's about building a certain type of relationship too.
And cultivation, for sure. Thank you. Wow, my cup is full with gratitude. Thank you. Gratitude for both of you for taking the time today to share you and your authentic selves and the work that you do. And I just wondered if you want to do a shout out for your social media or any of your programs at all before we go. Aieysha, if someone wanted to reach you, how could they do that?
They can reach me online, and it's Aieysha Haws, and I'm everywhere with the same name, pertaining to music or the personal. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. Appreciate that. And Michael, did
I
Yes.
mean, if there was a social to reach me on, it'd probably be LinkedIn then.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just my name,
Yeah.
Michael, and then my last name, Hanley, Hanley. So yeah.
Ready, and shout out to Michael's parents and Aieysha's.
We try. They try.
Yes, yes.
It's a team effort, right?
It has been a pleasure to be here with you and spend time. And thank you to Youth for Change for allowing us to discuss these opportunities, ways of life. It is a lifestyle on career choices for sure. We're here for Spotlight on Youth Matters, and be sure to reach out to us on social media and give us a like. My name is Lynn McEntee, and I have truly been your humble host to be here today. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Okay, thank you very much. This was
Thank you.
beautiful. I enjoyed myself. Lovely meeting you both again. Bye.
Thank
Nice to meet
you.
you. Bye.